All right, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so glad that you're here. My name is Tamara Bauer. I have been at K-State a long time. I came here in 2001 as an undergraduate student, and I liked it so much I've never left. So now I'm a faculty member in our Staley School of Leadership and have the opportunity to work with a lot of students across campus for a lot of different reasons. And Innocent and I are so excited to visit with you today about some ways that you can understand the U.S. culture and also the way the U.S. culture can embrace and get to know you all and the value that you all bring. So how many of you, has anyone not seen snow before? Has anyone not experienced snow? You are about to walk out to some beautiful things happening outside. So anyway, welcome in that. And we're also, this is going to be pretty engaging, so expect to talk to each other. We're going to ask you to get up and move a couple times because I know that good learning happens when you can actually use your own voice and your own thoughts and be able to contribute. So just as a preface, we're going to ask you to get up and engage with us just a little bit.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all doing today? Sorry about my voice, the weather, cold, everything, but I'm managing. Happy to be with you all.
It should work good. Now,
Welcome.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I get it now. So welcome to K-State. My name is Umberger105Capture. I'm originally from Côte d'Ivoire, West Africa. English people call my country Ivory Coast. So if Côte d'Ivoire is weird, Ivory Coast may sound good for you, okay? So this is an exciting time for all of us, and I know that you are excited about starting your program very soon. So today we are going to walk you through some of the important things that you should know during your first week of, let's say, class here at K-State, okay? So let's engage together. Okay, so we are going to watch this together, and then we will discuss those 3 questions. So as you are watching, keep the questions in mind. This is a very short video. I can see we are all feeling cold. It is normal. Okay. I do have challenge with cold as well, but I am managing. Yeah. So,
our community is more than a group of people. It's a place where the golden rule becomes the purple rule. It's recognizing the value of every individual and affirming the importance of diversity. It's freedom to have a different perspective. It's honesty underscored with understanding. It's becoming a piece of the greater good. We are many, we are one. Most of all, we are family. What defines the K-State community? Compassion, honesty, you.
Innocent, let's watch it one more time. Is that okay? And then
yes.
We can visit just so we can hear it. It's a short video. So this is us thinking about who is K-State and what does it mean to be part of this K-State community.
Our community is more than a group of people. It's a place where the golden rule becomes the purple rule. It's recognizing the value of every individual and affirming the importance of diversity. It's freedom to have a different perspective. It's honesty underscored with understanding. It's becoming a piece of the greater good. We are many, we are one. Most of all, we are family. What defines the K-State community? Compassion, honesty, you.
Great. I think we got it for this time.
I do, yeah.
Are we ready to engage with these 3 questions? But we will start with the question in the middle, okay? So let's engage together. You don't have to use any formal way. If you have the answer, just throw it. And at some point, you may engage with your neighbor as well. This is a great opportunity to make friends during your first day, okay? So let's start from the middle.
Our community is more than a group of people.
That's good. What's defined the K-State community from what you heard in the video? Compassion, honesty, and you, right? So us, right? That's great. Well done. Next question. What do we value? Question at the bottom. Diversity. What else? Family. Great. This word, you will hear it throughout our presentation today. Family. We are K-Staters. We are family. Okay? Now we are going to the top. Question number 1. What makes you proud to be a K-Stater? Just say it. What makes you proud? Sorry? Yes. Sweet. Purple color. That's great. What else? Anything else? Yes. People coming from across the world, and we are all family here. That's great. Thank you for your contribution. So this is great time. If you didn't say hello to your neighbor yet, that's fine. I'm going to give you the opportunity to say hello to your neighbor. So let's just turn to your neighbor, and then we are going to discuss those 2 questions. So what are 2 observations you have from the video? You are going to pair and talk. It can be 3 people, it can be 2 people, but take this moment to interact with your neighbor. Don't be shy, please. I used to be, and I'm still, but I manage, okay? Take this time to make a friend. If you're alone, I can join you, and we will discuss. We are doing this in 1 minute, okay? Are we ready to share? Maybe I will pick 3 people, or maybe 4, depending on how fast it goes. So, were you able to discuss something? Were you able to share something with your neighbor? Who did not? I'm not putting you on spot. Let's start with those who did. Yes, who want to share what you discussed, what you talk about for question 1? Yes, my friend. Yeah, or 2, either way works. Okay, you want to fit here. Okay, being part of the community. Great. What else? Who else want to share? Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Good. Great observation. What else? Yes. Others. Yes. That's great. That's great. Thank you. Yes. Want the community to feel like family. That's great. That's great. And I think we have a contribution to make if we want the community to feel as family, right? So I will share a little bit about myself being here as an international student, okay, and what makes me feel part of this family. Okay, and also it is a great time for us to pay attention to the words that we are using. It is good to fit in, but I will rather say it is good to belong rather than fitting in, okay? So being here, coming from Africa, a place where it is hot, right? And I got here fall 2021, and I know that I'm going to do my PhD in leadership communication. I connected with some professors, but you know what? For all my American friends here, I'm not putting you down here, but the thing is, like, whenever I travel, the first thing that I think the most about is, guess what? Thank you. You know, right? Food. So back home we have fufu, we have other kind of food, and I was expecting to have those here, but we don't. I was expecting my friends, like my friends who were here before me, to welcome me in the traditional way as we do it in Africa, right? And coming with food. But they came in and they are asking me out. We are going to take some pizza and things like that. I was very excited because this is the first week I enjoy pizza, but trust me, after the first semester, if you invite me for pizza, I will turn it down. Okay. But one good note here is like the K-State faculty. I'm not saying this because they are here with us. They are just amazing, friendly, lovely people. They will call you, how are you feeling? They brought me many things. So during the first week already, I was feeling like I am far away from home, but I'm actually in a new home. And I am very, very grateful. I hope each of you may have such an amazing experience during your first time here. You will not feel lonely, to be honest, but it requires something from you, which is being intentional to engage with others. I was very shy and timid, but I'm breaking it down progressively. So you can do it, okay? Great.
Yeah, and that's perfect because it's really speaking to when we say family, we have to be intentional about how we build that. And so Innocent's going to share a little bit more about how we develop, how we cultivate, and what it means to be part of the K-State family.
Great. So talking about the K-State family, it is very important to have those words in mind, okay? The first one, it is a place to belong. That's why I was saying we have to pay attention about the word that we are using, fit, right? So a place to belong, it is a place where you are accepted as who you are. As we are moving on, we will discuss this further. But let me give you an example. You hear my accent, right? It doesn't sound like an American, right? Great. But I'm part of the family. You get the point. But if I'm trying to fit in, I will try to speak like an American. But the truth is, I might not be able to sound like an American because I'm not, right? But they accept me the way I am. Does this short example make sense? Okay. So it is a place to belong. You come in as who you are, and you are accepted as who you are. And you contribute also to enable spaces to accept others. Okay? Moving on, number 2. K-State family is a place where you are yourself. So a place to be yourself. This is full and deep. Who can elaborate on this? To be yourself. A place to be yourself. What does it mean to you? Or maybe you have an example of a place where you were actually feeling like you are yourself. Yes. Yes. No, you don't have to change. Come again? Yes, this word identity, this matters a lot. Yes, that's true. Great, thank you. And it is also, K-State family is a place to learn and to grow. So first week, we are all learning. Orientation days are learning moment. We are learning to try to understand how things work here. And as we are learning also, we have the opportunity to grow through those learning processes, okay? But trust me, one thing that is particular here, all of us, we are learning to be great leaders for the future and this challenging world which is out there, okay? But we have to develop this mindset of being supportive to each other. That's why we are a family. So, who can read this very quick at the bottom? Yes. Great. Thank you. Okay. So here I think it sums up what we have discussed earlier, but we should keep this in mind. We are all trained to be leaders, to affect changes in this challenging world, okay? As always being ourselves. Yes.
So how do we do that? It's one thing to just say, let's put a group of people from all over the world together and hope it works out. But we know that that's not always the case, right? And we know that when we encounter people who have different identities or values or experiences, it may make it feel difficult or challenging for us to be a family in one. So what we're going to talk through and work through the rest of our session today is a process to develop intercultural competency, right? How we engage with others who are different. And some of you may have been doing this your entire life. For some of you, you might experience new things. I find that this is a journey for me, that in new environments with new people in a new setting in a new year, it requires me to really practice skills of deep listening and curiosity. And that's what we want to have a chance to do with you all. So we've already exemplified that there's a lot of diversity, not only in this room, but you'll encounter at your time at K-State. Diversity in where people are from, but also diversity of thought and background and histories. And again, if we just put diversity in a room, it probably is going to clash more than it would just mesh. And so how we can understand that difference and how we approach that difference is really the skills of intercultural competency. And that then is how we say, even if we have differences, we can come together to create communities of belonging. And so this is just an introduction to something that you'll hear a lot throughout your time at K-State. One of the ways I like to think about learning about difference is through storytelling. So there are several programs at K-State that you'll be invited to attend, and they use a framework called My Story, Your Story, Our Story. Knowing that we all come in with our own individual stories, our own lenses, and I need to be as curious about my own experience as I am about yours, right? And to not see your story as a threat to mine, but how we come together. And that's how we create our story. So we're going to practice a little of the storytelling now. Does that sound good? I like to think about diversity as the lenses in which we see the world. So I see several other people in here with glasses on, just like me. What happens if you were to take off your glasses? What would happen? You'd be blind? Yeah, and that's often how we feel. That's how I am right now. I'm like, no, I need them back. But if we experience something that isn't our lens, we often feel blind or that we don't know where to go. Okay, what would happen if I asked you two to change glasses? Go ahead, just do it for fun, if you feel comfortable. Do a glasses swap. You want to stand up and model, turn around, see your peers. So what's different for you now? It feels different?
I might not be able to walk.
Can't walk. Yes.
Not the same lenses.
Okay.
Mine are photocopy, but his are not, so I was distracted with the screen.
Yeah.
They're heavy too.
Yeah. They're heavier. They feel different.
Mine are way lighter.
Yeah. So when I think about our lenses, we're very comfortable with our lenses. It helps us see, it gives us accuracy, it gives us confidence. You can change back. And if we were to take on someone else's identity or someone else's lenses, it might feel like we struggle. It might feel heavy. It might feel like we're blind or we're disoriented in some way. And so what we want to remember is that our story is just our lens in which we make sense of the world. And it's true for us. It's very true for us. But somebody else's lenses, just like a prescription, might be as true for them. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the lenses that we have. And one of the ways that we can understand lenses is through the identities that we hold. So we are very complex people. We have a lot of different identities. And up here you can see several of them. Everything from your age to your gender to your physical ability to race, ethnicity, your appearance, your work experience, your geographical location. These are all things that make up your worldview and make up how the world looks to you. And someone who has a very different identity from you might experience the world a lot differently. And that's probably very common sense, right? We know that. But the difference becomes is now what do we do when we hear people who have differing experiences? What do we do when we're engaging with people who have that difference? And I have no doubt that you're going to meet people here that have very different identities from you, and people are going to want to learn about your identities and the experiences that you've had. So we're going to do a little exercise where we're going to ask you to reflect on your identities. Some of these identities are ones that you might have thought about for your entire life. For some of you, it might be the first time you've heard this or the first time you've really thought about it. I'm going to walk through when we say these identities, give you a little definition for at least how we're referring to it, so that you can think about how does that identity influence your own life. So the first one is sex. A lot of times people conflate sex and gender into one. It was actually being in college that helped me understand that those are very different things. So sex is what you are assigned with at birth, right? So a lot of times when we are saying, you know, like, oh, congratulations when there's a baby, what's the first question we ask? Is it a boy or girl, right? That's our socialization. That's how we've been socialized. Well, a lot of times that we then assume that that gender matches what that individual's sex is. And so gender is actually how you express yourself, right? So are you a boy? Are you a girl? Or now we're on a spectrum to be able to say, how is it that you identify related to your gender expression? Sexual orientation then is who you're actually attracted to, right? So thinking about, you know, are you in a heterosexual relationship where you would identify with somebody from the opposite gender, or are you with someone that you would be homosexual or bisexual or pansexual, and you might identify more on a spectrum and with someone from the same sexual orientation or from the same sex and gender? Race is what we talk about based on physical traits, so things that we can see. A lot of times race is associated with our skin color, and then ethnicity is actually the cultural heritage from where you come. So sometimes our race and ethnicity are the same, but oftentimes they're different depending on how you describe what that was growing, where you're from, and what that cultural heritage looks like. So those are a couple of the terms that you'll hear not just today, but throughout your time at K-State. One of the things that we'll try to do is in a lot of your classes, people will ask you, what are the identities you hold? And so we want to give you some baseline in terms of how would I answer that question or how would I think about that. So we're going to move into a storytelling exercise where we're going to ask you to think about these identities that you hold, and which identities do you think about the most, and which ones do you think about the least, and why, right? So of all the ones that we have listed here, which ones do you feel like are the lenses in which you see the world, because they influence how you navigate the world, they influence maybe even what you want to study, why you're here, and which identities maybe have you not thought about or have not had a reason to think about before? And Innocent's going to share an example, and then I'll also share an example before we have you think about that and share with a partner.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Tamara. I will start by sharing my example. Geographical location is part of my identity. Race, ethnicity are part of my identity. So I was born and raised in a very tiny, small village back in West Africa, in my country. It is in the eastern part. That place is called Umberger105Capture. And I was living in a very small family, my dad, my mom, and myself. So being there with them, my perception of life was different. Then when I got to grade 7, I moved to a kind of small town which have around 70,000 inhabitants to live with my grandfather. So moving there, my commitment was to succeed in school because I know where I'm coming from, where it was even challenging for us to get access to potable water. So I have to make my parents proud, and I have to make my community proud. So the only pathway for me to make this successful was studies. So I was so focused with my studies and not playing around, okay? Until I get to the college level, and then I realized that, oh, we have people from other part of the world, and we can't relate with our race, but we can relate with language. So language is also very important part of my identity, being bilingual. And oftentimes I remember, even up to now, even when I'm writing like essays or papers, you will see in French, short things, we can use 2 paragraphs just to describe a very tiny or small things. In English, it is straight, right? So I struggle a lot in how to navigate that. But the reality is I have to switch and see what is the positive side of this part of my identity, because I have to belong here. I don't have to fit in. So being able to elaborate on this way of writing or even thinking or process ideas helped me to feel like different, but at the same moment, it helped me to innovate in my way of doing things. So there are part of us that at some moment of life, we may feel like we are ashamed of it, like expressing publicly that I come from a very rural and tiny community. I'm not ashamed of it. It is part of me, and it is a kind of spark. It keeps pushing me to move higher. This is what I want to share. Yeah. Location, race, and language. Yeah. Over to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're going to want you to think about which identities influence you. One of the identities that I think about a lot is my gender. I teach a lot of classes. I am involved in campus in a lot of different ways, and I think that how I show up and present myself is something that a lot of people will question, like, oh, you're a professor at K-State. Like, I've had people tell me, like, oh, you're nice, you're sweet, you're kind, right? And I'm like, no, I'm also a darn good teacher, right? Like, can I be those things and be more? And so my gender and how I show up and how I present is something that I want to think about a lot, because a lot of the stereotypes we might have about who are faculty members and who are teaching is not always related. You have more of a preconceived notion around men teaching than you do women. One of the identities that I did not think about a lot until coming to K-State and working with so many students was my physical ability. So I have been very able-bodied my entire life, and so navigating a walk from here to the Leadership Studies building, or parking far away and coming in, even navigating how I get to class is something that I've never had to think about. I've worked with a lot of students over the years that have had pretty significant physical disabilities, but also neurological disabilities, and thinking about if they need extended test-taking time or listening to how I would present. And so as an instructor, as a faculty member, I've had to really think about how can I be more inclusive and creating practices and spaces where I can be acknowledging every person's ability to be successful, not just those who it's easy to be in. Because we only have a 10-minute passing period between classes, and so that doesn't work for everyone. And so what does that look like? Okay, so here's where it comes to you. We're gonna ask you to actually stand up, and you might need to move out of your rows for a little bit, but we want you to meet someone that you're not sitting directly to the right or left with, because you've probably already talked to them. So introduce yourself, tell them your name, where you're from, you can tell them what you plan to study, and then talk a little bit about the identities that you hold and the lenses that you wear. Which ones do you think about the most? Which ones do you think about the least, and why? So we'll give you 5 minutes to do this, all right? So stand up, meet someone new, introduce yourself, and talk about the identities that you hold. And if you need help finding a partner, raise your hand and we can connect you. You can come on to the back here. Yeah, come on over here. Here, we've got someone. Here we go. There you go. But you all sit by each other, so you have to welcome. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm great.
Yes.
I'm so sad because today I have a meeting.
One more minute. One more minute.
Nice to meet you all.
Squeeze by you, sorry.
I ask about time. So
All right, please head back to your seats.
let's come back together. I know that the conversations are going well. That's great. Keep going, but let's come together and we will move on. You will get the opportunity to go back and resume from where you stopped. Thank you.
All right. I hope you enjoyed getting to meet new people and also have maybe a different conversation than you've had before. I think a lot of, I don't know what the nicety conversation looks like in your culture or country, but a lot of times if we're just trying to say hi quickly, we'll say, oh, hi, Innocent, how are you? And he'll say, good, how are you? And then we're done, right? Or, hey, how are you? How's the weather? Oh, it's good, bye, you know? And so these questions ask us to dig just a little bit deeper and to help us say, who are we and why are we who we are? So could we have one or two people share what was something that you reflected on with your partner? What was something you shared about the identity that influences who you are and how it informs your worldview? And I'll even give you the microphone so you can share this just a little more. Who'd be willing to share? Just one. Would either of the two of you be willing to share? You don't have to. No. Here, you want to share? You want to? Yeah. Okay. Share your name and where you're from and what you talked about.
My name is Ali Raza. I'm coming from Iran. It's a bit hard for me and my friends from here, also from Iran. We are a bit shy sometimes. I think. Yeah. We're talking to a lady. I don't know where she's sitting right now, from Nepal. Yeah. Yeah, we shared some information about our hardships for obtaining visa and what our beliefs are in Iran and in Nepal. She shared some information about the geography of her country and things like that. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And look at how much you learned in just a couple of minutes, right? Different than the weather and hi, how are you? Yeah. One more person who'd be willing to share? Wonderful. Innocent, can I use your microphone? Is that okay? There you go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Felicia. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, Africa. So what I discussed with her, Divine, was on geographical location. My country is an equatorial country, so it's hot most of the time and it rarely gets cold. So I was really excited to see snow because I remember I was in Bianca's room and I literally ran out to see the snow. Yeah, and we also talked about racial and ethnic identity. I don't think I have so much to worry about when it comes to racial and ethnic identity, despite the fact that in my country we share a common ethnic identity. But in my school, I go to African Nazarene University, which is more of an international university. So I see more people of different races. So I don't really think I'll have a problem with that, as well as sexual orientation, because my country believes in diversity, and I don't think there's going to be so much trouble for me when I see people of different sexual orientations. I think just that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's excellent. Thank you, thank you. Okay, big, you were brave in sharing about yourself. So this is one way for you to think a little bit about who you are and what makes you you, and also be curious about the people around you. One of the other ways that K-State will help facilitate you getting to belong and getting to be you is to often ask for introductions, like they'll ask your name or your preferred name, how you would like to be called, and they will ask you to introduce what pronouns you'd like to use. So we might be able to think we could assume someone's pronouns by looking at them, but now that we know, that as you express your gender identity, you might identify with a different pronoun. And so in my signature for my email, or a lot of the times I'll ask students to make name tents. I'll have them put their names and put their pronouns underneath so that we're calling each person by the pronoun that they would like to be referred to. So here are some examples of what those different pronouns could look like. And as you hear this, we just want you to be aware so that you can ask and you can learn more. But that is one of the practices that K-State has been using to really try to foster that place where all people can belong. I'm not going to show this now, but there is a video about how you would ask someone what their pronouns are. So if this is a new idea to you and you want to learn a little bit more, this PowerPoint will be posted on your Canvas site after, and you can watch this short video to learn a little bit more about pronouns. Okay, so we did a little bit on my story. Innocent's going to take us into your story.
Yes. So stories are strong, and stories are places where we express our differences, but at the same moment, there are places where we can relate and connect to each other. Because I'm pretty sure that when you were listening to the story of your partner during the pairing time, you were like, oh, okay, this resonates with me, okay? So when we think about your story, let's go through the... Okay, we started from my story. Sorry, let's go back. My story, your story, and then we will conclude with our story. But as we are thinking about your story, I think we are going to consider the cultural iceberg. So let's look at this all together, the cultural iceberg. And there is this part that is visible. Even standing afar, you can see it. And down there is this deep side, which is under, and you can't see it. So this deep part represents our subjectivity, right? And the top part is the objective part. So for instance, if I am standing in front of you and I ask a question, what identity do you think I refer to the most? Considering this physical appearance, you may be able to share something, right? So those will come as part of the surface culture, okay, that I identify myself with the most. Then, when it comes to the subjective part, this is where maybe you may guess wrong. Because you may say something and I will tell you, my friend, no, sorry, this is not what I identify myself with, or this is not what I relate with. So when we think about the surface level, at the very beginning, I talk about food. As an African, I like food. I eat a lot. That's good. So don't consider like my physical being slim to think that I don't like food. I do, okay? So fashion, the way we dressed, our way of speaking, languages, all these are part of the surface level. So when we are sharing our stories, based on that, like, for instance, if I meet an African person speaking, I can guess where this person comes from. If you are from West Africa, I know East Africa, just based on your accent, okay? So these are obvious. But when it comes to the deep culture, for instance, when we think about manners, right? French speakers, Francophone, manners matters to us. But oftentimes, for some people, manners are not, and I come from a high context culture. Africa, generally, like the way you address an elder or even a professor or even someone in a very hierarchical position is totally different. Here I came in and my professor, who is my advisor, he's an associate professor, and he said, call me by my first name. I'm like, I can't do that, because I come from a different culture. So here you will meet professors that will just tell you, like, despite a PhD and all the title, you can think about it, just name it, call me by my first name, okay? And I can't do that. But this is how they prefer to be called. So you will see I am part of those weird guy who call people like title, first name. Title, first name. I do the same with Dr. Sarah every time, So these are things that are part of the manners, but I can just express it through the deep culture. This makes sense, right? And there are many other things that we can relate here, but as we are moving on, we will have the opportunity to talk. Religion as well. You have to have conversation with people to get an idea about what religion they are part of, okay? So generally, this statement is deep. Okay, let's take a few seconds and think about it. We do not see things as they are. We see things as we are. Remember, we are seeing things through different lenses. Based on my background, based on my cultural upbringing, all these things are going to inform the way I relate to people, right? And this is an example how I cannot just deny or put aside the title of people and just call them. Because the challenge will be, whenever I will go back home, I will struggle to interact with my professors if I keep this habit. So in order to emphasize with someone's experience, you must be willing to believe them as they see it and not how you imagine their experience to be. Brené Brown. Okay? Takes a few seconds and read through this second citation. And we are still thinking about your story as well. So your story is your story, right? I should relate to it the way you present it to me, not necessarily the way I want it to be presented. And the way I think about your story should be the way you want it to be perceived, not necessarily the way I want it to be narrated. Does that make sense? So when we are thinking about your story, this is how we think about it. And your story is part of you. Be yourself and belong to the K-State family with your story. So be open to share your story. In this way, we will be able to relate. So when we are talking about your story, I think here we will just give like 30 seconds or maybe 1 minute and so to think about this and consider what are things which are very important when you are framing your story, and maybe you can pair and share with your neighbor. Here you don't have to stand up, just pair with someone and think about, when you are thinking about your story, what is very important to you in terms of like geographical location, gender expression, sexual orientation. These are the same characteristics, but in this way, you are using them to frame your story, to narrate your story. Let's go. Let's do it. 1 minute. Yeah, pair with your neighbor, talk through, and we will ask follow-up questions. In 20 seconds, we will come together. Yes, let's come together. Hello. So I hope you listen with empathy and you were curious when listening to the story of your partner. Then let's consider this as a follow-up question, okay? So you are going to move a little bit deeper in the story of your partner or your neighbor. So you may ask a follow-up question just to try to understand better some of the key points or key aspects that were narrated to you or were told. Just to try to learn about who they are and how they see or experience the world. Go for it. Based on what they share with you, try to ask a specific question that will help you to understand who they are or how they see the world. Is it clear? You don't get it. Your partner told a story, right? Like narrate his or her story, and you were listening. I hope you were listening with empathy and curiosity. Based on what you heard, you may ask a question just to try to dive into that. Try to understand how your partner see the world or how your partner experience it. Does this make sense now? Are you able to ask that question now? Let's do it, and then I will pick one person to share, and we move on. Just a follow-up question based on the story that you heard or you were listening to, just to try to understand more. Hello? Yeah, let's move on. I know that the conversation is going well. Sorry for interrupting, but let's try to move on. Okay, who want to share? Who want to share, like maybe the follow-up question that you ask or something that you learn that you can relate to the story of your partner or your neighbor? Who is willing to share? Or you can just shout out. Like you can just say it loud from where you are. Something you learn that you can relate with, or something you learn that help you to have an understanding of how your partner or your neighbor see the world or experience the world. No one? Feel free to share. We value your answers, and your answers might be helpful. No? Are you cold? Kind of. Okay, okay. That's fine. One thing that I want to stress on before we move on here is like, whenever we are listening to people's story, we should embrace that story and we should make sure that we listen with empathy and we listen with curiosity. And this may request that you apply active listening. Okay? Yeah.
have you think about deep culture and differences among the lenses or the identities you hold is you will encounter people with different lived experiences that you might find really brush up against your ideas of what you think the world is, and may even clash or combat it with what you think. Now that you know that, how you choose to navigate that difference is really what we want to talk about. So I'm going to show you a model of intercultural development where we think about our approach to what difference is. So a lot of times we might think, oh, differences don't matter. I don't see difference, right? And so if we're thinking like we're navigating this, we're all just a big K-State family, it's okay, right? I don't have to understand the visa challenges that you had trying to come to the US, right? It's okay, we're all the same. What's the problem with that? Why is that not good enough? Why is that actually challenging for us?
You might treat someone wrong.
Yeah, I might choose to interpret something and then treat that person differently or in a wrong way, not how they want to be treated. Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm also not acknowledging the full person, the full story. And so if we're trying to develop people and processes and learn together, we have to be able to see the full person, which includes what those differences are. So the next step after denial is often polarization. So I like to think about this like, I see our differences, but you do you and I do me, right? Have you ever heard that? A real basic example I would give is for dessert, I love chocolate. Anything chocolate. Anyone else love chocolate? I love chocolate. Okay, who in here likes cheesecake? Okay, I hate cheesecake. I don't think cheesecake should be a dessert. I don't like it. I deny you, and I will never serve you cheesecake. Okay, so, but I love chocolate. So all my chocolate lovers, we're on the same page. Cheesecake people, you can go over there, right? And for dessert choice, that's an okay thing to say. But it's much different if I'm going to say this around religion or around gender expression or around social class or language, right, to have that polarization. So then we might think that the next step, instead of just rejecting, would be minimization. So like, oh, I can acknowledge that you like cheesecake and that I like chocolate, but we're just going to ignore it, right? We're just going to make that not a big deal. Well, it's going to come up again, though, when we go out to eat dinner, right? It's going to come up again over and over, especially as we're coming together. So minimizing those differences is also not helpful because we're not acknowledging the history and the experience that each person brings. So if we're in denial, polarization, or minimization, we're not actually engaging well with difference. We're just trying to ignore it in a way that's really unhelpful. The next phase then is acceptance. And a lot of times people think this is the goal, right? That if I can accept differences, that's helpful. And it's a progress from those first three, but it's often not enough. Because if I'm going to say, I accept you and you accept me, that might mean, though, that I'm not creating the conditions or the space for you to actually get to be yourself. And so what we want to move to is adaptation. How can we coexist, right? How do we create the spaces and the conditions where we can all thrive? So going back to my example around physical ability, when I was designing my classes and not thinking about physical ability, I was missing some really key things to do for students of all ability ranges to help make it successful for everyone. So I had to adapt certain things. I taught a student who was blind last year, and so all of the ways that I usually taught with PowerPoint did not work. And so what was my approach? How is it that I can adapt my process so that it benefits not only students who can see, but also the student who is also blind? And so as you think about the stories you've heard just today or the stories that you've encountered in the past where maybe it feels like a different worldview, like changing somebody's glasses, what will your approach be? Will it be one of minimization? Will it be one of polarization? Or can you work towards this space of acceptance and then adaptation so that we all create a space where we can all be together? And that's the goal that we have here at K-State. So that's our story. And this is really a call to action for all of us on how we can create communities where we all can belong. Because it's not enough just to put us together and hope that it works out. We all have to be willing to adapt and to be curious and open as we listen. And so you're going to have a bunch of opportunities throughout your time at K-State to interact with people with different identities, different lenses, different experiences, and we hope you'll lean into those as opportunities to make that really rich. One of the ways that you can think about this is how in the spaces that you're in, the spheres of influence you help create a space where we can all thrive. So you may have seen this before, but this is the difference between equality and equity. So if I'm trying to be equal and treat all people equally, then I would be giving 3 of the same size boxes to every person to help see this game, right? But why doesn't that work? Yeah, they're not the same size, right? So the size of box you need might be really different than the size of the box that you need, right? So I think I'm doing well because I'm trying to be equal to everyone, but that's not good enough, right? But this equity approach, what's the difference there? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So you are making it individualized, you're customizing, you're thinking about who are the people, what is their need, and how do I build that? And so as you start working with other people and you engage in this space, we hope that you find that K-State tries to create equitable spaces for you to thrive and not just trying to treat everybody the same. Now, our last goal would be that eventually we get to this space where we're all liberated, right? We have a justice approach. So what's the difference here? What are they doing here? Yeah, they're removing barriers, right? So if we saw not just the challenge in terms of fixing it because we're creating boxes, but instead we actually see the problem, the root cause as being the fence itself, then we'll take down those barriers to create a more just and equitable space for all of us to thrive. So just 2 ideas or 2 tools that you might think about in terms of how we engage and how we try to create this community of belonging where everyone can be together. So real quick history lesson about the United States. As you come here, we want you to know that we have a lot of history related to trying to create more equitable spaces. The U.S. has not always had a inclusive or justice-focused approach in terms of how we try to acknowledge all people. And I hope that we continue to do better, but you'll still see in news outlets and different events that happen that we still need to do better. And I want you to know that K-State has a real commitment to talking about issues like this. You'll hear conversations around the history of slavery in the United States and how that still impacts our education system and other structures that we have. You'll hear about segregation in schools related to race and related to different social classes and how that's impacted how we're designing the kinds of education experiences that we can all be in. So we want to share with you that we're not perfect by any means. We have a long road ahead of us, but we need you all to help us do it better. So as you see things that maybe are not working well, or if you see things that could be better designed to help you all be successful, please find your voice and share that, because we want to be part of writing this next story together so that everyone really can thrive. So just for the sake of time, you can read through some of these if you're curious on the PowerPoint after we post that. But again, we want to share with you that our goal and our commitment at K-State is to really be a community where we are focused on valuing each person and the identities and the experiences you had, and not at the expense of valuing somebody else's over yours or yours over someone else's, but how we come together. So these K-State principles of communities you're going to see posted in every classroom at K-State. You're going to see them posted around on campus, and that we have a lot of events where we're going to say, hey, let's come together and have a conversation. Oftentimes if there's a big national event that's happening somewhere, in the world, or something that is impacting here in the U.S., we will host dialogues and conversations where we want people to come together and learn and figure out how we can do better. In 2020, as you all know, with COVID, there was a really big, important movement called Black Lives Matter here, where we talked about injustices related to racism in the United States. And it was, from my lived experience, one of the most honest ways we've tried to have conversations to kind of reconcile what that injustice looked like. And we're still having those. So we just want you to know that as you come here, you might hear things and hear different events that are happening, but it's one way that we can try to say, hey, we're not going to avoid that. We're going to try to center it so that we can all be part of making a better community moving forward. So What we want you to do as you hear this is turn to a person next to you and share what's one thing that you think you can do, even starting today, that will help build our community of belonging for everyone at K-State. What's one thing you want to do really intentionally that goes beyond just, hey, how are you, how's the weather, right? But like, what can you do to help be part of that K-State family? So brainstorm one action step and share it with the person next to you. What will you do to help build our community of belonging for all? I think we can do a couple of shout outs. And then you can end with this. Because I was thinking this selfie could be one way we're going to say we're all together. We want to celebrate you all for being here. Yeah. That sound okay? I keep thinking that these lights are windows. So I'm like looking outside to be like, oh, what's the snow? Because it's so bright, but it's just lights. Yeah. Had you met Ellie before? Okay. Yeah. All right, about 20 more seconds. 20 more seconds. All right, who'd be willing to share? What did you come up with? Small things that you can do to help us create our purple K-State family. Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Is it on? Oh, yeah. Invite people to things. So like if you're going shopping or if you're going to one of the international events, you can see if anyone else wants to come.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And I am also someone who I will see events on campus and be like, oh, that's not for me. Or like I might be nervous to go to that. But if somebody asks me to go or if I have someone to go with, I'm probably going to go. So I love that. And you will have so many events. Read K-State today. There are so many events that you can attend every week throughout your time at K-State. And don't forget the step of inviting someone. I love it. And your name?
Divine.
Divine. Thank you. All right, one more. What's one thing you'll do to help create this community for us? I'm looking at my back row people. Yeah. Yes. Okay, I'm here. Oh, go ahead and take Innocent's microphone. All I heard was spicy food, and I said yes.
So the people here like spicy food, and I like spicy food too, but US people don't like spicy. So when I make spicy food, I would invite them.
I love it. Or I do like spicy food, but my spice is not your spice, right? So
Define spicy.
yeah, define spicy. Yeah, so small acts can really help build people together. And what we don't want is people to feel alone or isolated. So we invite you to be part of this K-State community. And one way Innocent and I want to do that right now is we're going to take a big group selfie, and then we're going to post it on the Staley School social media so you can see that you belong at K-State. You're already on our social media. We're super excited to have you here. So let's see if we can get everybody in here. Oh, yeah, maybe you could. Do you want to take a picture? Is that better? Thanks. Here, let's come stand to the side, and then we can do that. Okay, if you want to stand up in the back so we can see you, that'd be great. Yay!
Smile.
1, 2, 3.
Cute.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because you do matter, and we are so excited to have you here. So Innocent's going to give you a couple next steps on what we can do to engage, and then we'll be out of here. There you go.
Okay, so talking about events and activities that you can be part of, keep those in the loop. So welcome like the week of welcome starting from January 16 to 24. So we will be happy to see you getting involved in those events and activities and being present. In addition to that, there is Cat Connect, which is a great initiative that I will encourage you to be part of. You can just scan the QR code. We have 2 different sessions. The first session starting in February and may end in March, and the second session will begin in.
You were right, February and March.
Yeah.
And in this, you're paired with a small group of 5 to 7 other people, and you meet for 1 hour every week, and you just get to know each other. And so there's a facilitator who kind of gives you the activities and the things to do, but it's a wonderful way to meet new people, and very low pressure, right? Like very low pressure, 5 to 7 people, but we've had a lot of folks sign up for this. I'll send out an email to you next week when the registration link is live, so just be on the lookout for that.
If you actually want to experience a small group as the unit of transformation, I will invite you to go for Cat Connect, because I remember a group this semester became like a family. They were doing many things, like even after Cat Connect, they were hanging out, going to different activities all together. So in addition to Cat Connect, keep this in the loop for the fall semester. We have YCAT Dialogue, one of the fantastic time at K-State, where we value and we experience what it means to be part of K-State as a community of belonging. So it is university-wise. You will connect with people. You will attend those events online or in person, depending on your availability, but you will talk and discuss topics like diversity, what it means to be part of K-State, and it was just amazing. So you will be in small group as well, pair with facilitators, and yeah. So also, if you want to be part of it as a facilitator, it will be great. You will get some T-shirt with the logo and everything on it. And there is also KS Unite, which is also a big one in the fall as well. Yeah. So here are some of the programs that we have at the Stanley School of Leadership. So if you are interested in any of those, you may scan the QR code as well, or you can just snap it and then go through. We have 4 main programs, the nonprofit certificate. We also have the, I think, study abroad. And we also have the Global Food System certificate. And there is one for graduate students, which I think it is already closed, but it is the Leadership Edge campus-wise, where you will have a certificate in leadership, and it is very, very interesting. Yeah, thank you, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we are so grateful for hosting us today. Thank you all, and we wish you a very best semester.
Yay.